Hi, welcome. This is week 8 of the microeconomics course. Week 8 means we are coming close to the end. There's only a couple of weeks left. So, it's time to start thinking about the final project and what you have done by the last week 10, which is a lot of points and is also very important problem for you, a very important exercise because it really helps you apply some of the concept we study, and that will help you future in your career when your boss will tell you to examine specific situations in the market, and you will be able to do it because you have done it before and you know how to do it. In any case, so this week 7, we talked about three other type of markets. I know it's a lot to put in, but two of them are relatively straightforward: oligopoly and monopolistic competition. Oligopoly is few big firms that control the market. And so you can think about markets like cigarettes. There are very few that make one. Airlines, there are very few big ones. So few big firms that control the market. Then you have monopolistic competition, which doesn't take very long in the chapter to explain, and it's a very common market. You have many firms, but the product is not undifferentiated. So consumers are not indifferent to who makes the product, but there is differentiation. That means firms make similar things, but they're different in some forms, and consumers care about that. And you can think about fashion, right? Shoes. Sure, all firms that make shoes, but shoes are different. It's a different type of shoes. And even if you say tennis shoes, but there's brands that make differences, and the differences are not necessarily qualitative. It's not that this shoe makes you jump higher than the other, although they want you to believe that, but there are differences. So the symbol is different, something is different, and so you can differentiate, and consumer prefer one to the other, not because there's really intrinsic difference in the value, but because maybe brand name, design, stuff like that. Okay, so these are the type of markets. And then the important one, the chapter that I really want you to pay attention to, is monopoly. And from an economics perspective, monopoly is a market failure. That's because you don't have many firms. And so how are firms going to compete with each other if nobody is going to compete for your market? And so this chapter discusses how this type of market exists, why do they exist, why is that a problem, and what can be done about that. Okay, so if you think about it, some markets, think about medications. Okay, medications have the problem of people need them. Okay, and so you have on one side the problem of ideally you want to have the cheapest possible price for consumers because there's medications are important. People need them to stay alive in some cases, and they're really important. But on the other hand, there is some research involved, some cost. This is disputable, but this how much. But there are costs in developing and coming up with new drugs. So in this case, what is the government, or what is the idea behind fostering this type of research to improve medical outcomes? Well, the main idea is that you want to give a monopoly power, a patent is a monopoly power, a patent to the firms that comes up with a new drug for a certain amount of time. So if you know when a new drug comes in, only one company, the one that created, is the monopolist. They are the only one that can make it, and they can really charge high prices. Then after a certain number of years, depending on the patent, the monopoly expires, generics can come in, and the price of the medication goes down. So you have this balance of foster innovation because there's this high fixed cost of research. You want to foster innovation by giving the company a certain monopoly power at the beginning. Okay, and so you understand this idea, and you understand why that's a problem, but it's also is the best solution at the same time. Otherwise, every company would just wait for another company to come up with a new drug, don't do any research, and then you would have no new drugs. Okay, so this is the main idea. Another case of where monopolies exist is what is called natural monopolies, like utilities. You cannot have many water pipes of many companies. That's why you have only one. Okay, because it's very expensive to put pipes under the roads to get the water to different places, and so you have what's called a natural monopoly, and these are controlled. There's a public utility commission in Pennsylvania, and they meet every now and then and they discuss if a company wants to increase rates, for example, for water. They have to go through a process because it's a controlled monopoly. Otherwise, they would be able to exploit this monopoly power. Okay, and so this is what you do this week. There are two chapters. You need to work more on doing the connect assignments, but these are two important chapters, okay, especially the one on monopoly. Then when you go here to your coursework, you will again go down to the week of this week, which is week 8. You will look at week 8 and you will see that there are the readings, videos and readings. There are the 2 PowerPoint presentations on the chapters that we examined this week. And then you have, as I said, the videos, watch them, they're very helpful. And then you have the 2 readings. The 2 readings are about diamonds. And this is our cool readings because diamonds is the type of market that many people don't know much about. And diamonds, till not long ago, used to be a big monopoly of one big firm called De Beers. And that's why diamonds are so expensive. Diamonds are not that rare. Big diamonds are, but small diamonds are not. And they artificially made it rare, and they're artificially created so that people think they're rare. And it's very cool. Actually, it's very evil in a sense, but very cool how they did it. But that's all the problem of blood diamonds in Africa. You know, countries exploited, children exploited, people exploited to find diamonds because of this monopoly power that the company had. It's a very sad story. Luckily, the monopoly is breaking, and so it's a good thing. Okay, so when you go to assignments, you go here and you will find week 8, all the connect stuff. And then I call it project 2. Project 2 is a monopoly project. So you first really need to understand monopoly to tackle this one. So you really need to work through the chapter of monopoly before the end of the week to be able to start working on this project. This project has two documents. One is the project, the actual question. The other one is a sample. I took it from another class, so the title here is, it's this one. It's exam 2, but it doesn't matter if it's exam 2. It's a monopoly problem sample. So in this case, I create a cost function. So I know how much it costs to produce something for a monopolist, and I have a certain demand curve. And the demand curve, in this case, is pretty simple. P equals 10 minus Q. And so, which gives me a marginal revenue of 10 minus the Q. Now, if you know calculus, you know it's a derivative. You find total revenue from the demand curve and you derive it. If you have no idea, watch this video. This video helps you help you understand how you derive marginal revenue from total revenue. Okay, there are many other sources. If you go on Google, and you can find that relatively simply. And so what you find when you have this, you want to find the marginal cost and the average total cost from the cost function. And it's relatively simple to do, and here they are the answers. But the marginal being the change, you know that if the total cost function is 2Q, every time I make one more unit, total cost goes up of 2. That means marginal cost is 2. And since there are no fixed costs, that's also the average total cost. 2 are exactly the same. So it's 2. Okay. So here I can draw my line in the graph of marginal cost. In this case, because there are no fixed cost equal to the average total cost, is this straight line at 2. Every extra unit costs me 2. Then here I can graph the demand curve. And you did this with the supply demand problem. You see how that is. You just graph the demand curve. And so you can see that if the price is 10, 0 are demanded. If the price is 0, 10 are demanded, demand. Then you graph from what you have found here, the marginal revenue. I graph a marginal revenue like everybody. Marginal revenue versus marginal cost is where profits are maximized. So here at this point here, and at this point here, I can easily find my quantity by solving the equations, and it's 4. And at the price of 4, I use my demand curve to find that the price charged by monopolists is 6. Okay, so this graph tells you everything you need to know of why monopolies are inefficient. In case of competition, producers cannot charge 6. They have to charge something less than 6. So competition will drive the price down and will increase availability to this level here, quantity of 8, price of 2. If I'm a monopolist, why should I charge 8 and have 0 profit since the cost is 2? I will charge the price that maximize my profits, and that's when the quantity is 4 in this case and the price is 6. So the outcome for monopoly is price of 6 and quantity of 4. The outcome for competition will be price of 2, quantity of 8. So you can see the difference, and that's the inefficiency of monopoly. Okay, so you want to use this template to produce your own product. So what you will do in this, you will, for project 2, you will create a problem. So you take the example that I gave you, but you change the numbers. So you have to be able to learn how to figure out the marginal revenue curve from the demand curve, the new demand curve that you create. Make it simple, but change the numbers. And then what you want to do, you want to do the same steps that you saw in the example, create the problem, do the graph, find the solutions, and then I want you to discuss an example of monopoly. So you want to go online, look for articles of monopolies. There are many. Again, you can look at medications, you can look at natural monopolies like utilities, you can look at, just Google, you can look at historical example like Standard Oil and how they control the oil market for a long time. And then you want to discuss that in terms of the inefficiency, why are monopoly inefficient and why they exist and what is done about that. Okay, so if you go to Standard Oil, it's one of the cases why we have antitrust laws. Antitrust laws exist because monopolies were inefficient. Okay, and the price was up for consumers. So this is what you do this week. And then, turn in everything by Sunday. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. But that's basically the idea. So now I will, wish you good luck, I guess, and I will see you next week. Thank you very much. I'll stop the recording now.